Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you guys are back, and we are moving forward with this series. Now, this will be the last part of the relationship series, but we will be starting the wedding series next. So please stay tuned for that. Today, as you can tell by the title, we are talking about premarital counseling and the engagement. That's what everybody wants to get to. Well, not everybody, because people don't. We're going to get into it, okay? If you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure you click the bell as well so you know every single time that I upload and you don't miss any of the good videos, okay? We're getting into the nitty-gritty, okay? Also, y'all, if you haven't watched all of the other videos leading up to this video, you want to make sure you do so because they all lead into one another. You're going to be hearing me talk about other things that we've talked about in the previous video. So please, please, please stop what you're doing right now. Go back all the way to video number 1 because it is very imperative. So without further ado, we are talking about premarital counseling. First and foremost, what is premarital counseling? Why is it so important? Nobody's really talked about premarital counseling. Is this something new? This isn't something new. I think premarital counseling is such a huge blessing. I know it was personally a huge blessing for my husband and I. It isn't talked about much in society, and I think that's like a huge mistake of ours because it is so necessary and it's so beneficial. It's so great to know that is even offered. I know when we think of, or when we hear the word counseling, it's like, oh, like, we don't need counseling, everything's good. Like, counseling is always thought to be something that's taking place when things are bad, instead of it being looked at as a preventative measure. So premarital counseling is essentially that. It's a great way to clear up misconceptions about marriage, set goals for your marriage, and to distinguish what God wants and what God's standards are for marriage compared to what the world says the standards are. So once you both have prayed and you've received confirmation and you guys are well into your courtship, the next step should be premarital counseling, because I know marriage is on your brain, okay? Premarital counseling should come before that, okay? Personally, for me, premarital counseling, it helped me have a better idea of what a godly wife should be and what a godly husband should be. I know I probably did the same, obviously did the same for Corey. It was a great thing. Like, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Y'all not gonna hear me stop saying that enough, okay? Premarital counseling is something that you need, not should, need to do before you guys get married. Why? Why premarital counseling? Why should this be a thing? Well, we know that the Bible talks about taking heed to wise counsel. Let's go and flip to the book. We're going to the book of wisdom. That is Proverbs. So we're starting at Proverbs 12, verse 15. And it says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise." Naturally, we're just like, oh, I got this in the bag. How hard can it be? No. We want to seek out counsel, right? Proverbs 11:14. I probably should have started with that one because it comes before. But where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. You can't get enough counsel, okay? Let's not try to just be wise in our own eyes. Let's seek out, okay, what should be done. You remember in Genesis where Moses' father-in-law, he was like, what you're doing is not wise, brother, okay? You need that counsel to come tell you this is what you should be doing. This is what you shouldn't be doing. It is necessary. Okay, last one, Proverbs 19:20 through 21. Boop, boop, boop. It says, "Listen to counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter days. There are many plans in a man's heart, nevertheless, the Lord's counsel that will stand." If that don't answer it, I don't know what. What will, okay? It is necessary and is so beneficial. Moving right along. I might step on a few toes when I say this, but just know it's all in love. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Picking the right person to do your premarital counseling matters. And this is why I say all of the other videos add on to this, because in the previous videos, we talked about being a part of a great church. Now, if the person that you are in courtship with is going to a funky church, there may be some problems there. The church should have sound doctrine. Their leader should understand and teach the Bible. okay? Their leader should know this should be a thing that you should do before you get married. It should be weird for them not to even bring it up or that not to be a thing within the church, okay? Just telling you now, all right? Because like I said, if it doesn't trickle down from the leadership, the whole church, this is one of the areas where I say like the whole church can just be out of whack because it stems from leadership, okay? We already know the hierarchy here. It's the Lord, man, right? That man ain't doing what he's supposed to do as a leader. I'm not even talking about relational. I'm talking about just in leadership, okay? If he's not teaching sound doctrine, he's not going to know the word. It's going to affect every other area of the church. Okay, so who you guys choose to do your premarital counseling matters. These are some things for you to consider. Is this person married? I don't know about you, but I did not want somebody who wasn't married doing my premarital counseling, because how are you going to advise me on something that you aren't familiar with? I just think that's common sense for me. I don't know. Number 2, how long have they been married? Is their marriage healthy? I don't want you counseling me and you just got married last year. Yes, you know a little bit more than me, but not that much. I want somebody with some they got their boots. They got their boots dirty a little bit. You know what I'm saying? How is your marriage? Okay, not only do I want you to be married for a little bit, put some time in, but how is your marriage? Is your marriage healthy? Is it evidence that your marriage is healthy? How you interact? These are things you should be paying attention to. How are you interacting with your wife? Yes, is it possible for people to put on a front? Absolutely. But you should have discernment, right? And fruit of the Spirit is a thing. It will become evident if a person isn't doing what they need to do to their spouse or treating their spouse as they should. It will be evident. It will be very evident. I know somebody's probably thinking, should it be a man over a woman? I personally cannot answer that, okay? I don't think it has to be a man, right? In our case, it was our pastor, so obviously, well, not obviously, but it was a man. I know that people have sought out counsel who are just like maybe therapists or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I would, if you are going to do that, I would advise, like I said, these questions that I'm giving you guys to just think about or ask yourselves, that be a thing. But also, I would highly recommend, obviously, that they're a Christian, because you want godly principles to be covered during your premarital counseling sessions, right? Have they counseled other couples? Duh. Like, why am I coming to you and you ain't, this is the first time? No, you don't know what to ask me. You don't know what to look for. What are we talking about? Okay? This one is really, really important. Are they willing to be honest if couples aren't a good fit? Like, can they say that I counseled this couple and I honestly had to tell them like this wasn't what they needed to do? Because if they haven't done that for anybody else, if that's the case for you guys, it's a little problematic. You know what I'm saying? It's a little problematic that they don't want to be honest. You can't just be out here marrying everybody. Like, yeah, it's all good. Y'all had a little issue, but it's all good. Are you going to have issues? Of course. But what I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of things, if you naturally see that these two people are not a good fit for one another, it shouldn't be all good and jolly. Like, I need you to tell them to their face, okay? So, in premarital counseling, what can you expect to go over? For us, we went over finances, we went over conflict resolution, we went over communication styles, we went over how we each feel about sex, we went over, what else? Things that took place in our childhood, like the things that you wouldn't normally think to discuss in like a regular conversation, the things that could be missed. And we went over these things all from a biblical perspective. I'm going to keep highlighting that. You don't want to just, oh, we had counseling. No, like, is it from a biblical perspective? Because that is the goal, is to have a godly marriage, right? I know even for Corey and I, our pastor had us interview married couples. One married couple was married for over 10 years, and the other one had to be married for at least 20 years. So that gave us great insight too. He obviously gave us questions to ask them, but it was just really, really good to even think to have us do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, not only are we getting counsel from him directly, but other married couples as well. So I love that about our counseling sessions. And I think that just ties into 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 13, I believe, where it's just talking about like love and what you're expected to do. Like it gives you the introduction to all of that, of living that scripture out, right? So I think that was just like a great thing that we ended up doing. As far as the timing of how long premarital counseling is, ours was 6 weeks. I've heard that people have done it for 12 weeks. So I think between that range is what's deemed normal. I'm not 100% sure. Ours was once every other week or once a week. I don't remember, but I know it was for 6 weeks in total. For Corey and I, we started in December and we finished in February. So that was our timeline. And like I said, this came before we got engaged. People were just like, what the heck? How aren't you engaged? Imagine imagine a man buying a girl a ring and then they're in premarital counseling and it ends up that they shouldn't be together. Do you know what you have to go through to do? And then what if it's like, oh, he could just give it to the next girl. No, what if the next girl don't like that type of ring? Like, this is what you need to, like, you cannot just jump into engagement. This is why it needs to be done before the engagement even happens, right? So we got engaged. We started talking about engagement after our premarital counseling was done. Well, not even after. It was like towards the end of it because our pastor was like, you guys can start talking about engagement. You guys can get engaged. Like, I approve. We're going to finish the sessions, but I approve of, what the Lord is doing here. Like, this is a good fit. You guys would be great as a married couple, right? Once we got that stamp from him, we started talking about engagement and people were just like, you're not engaged. I started looking because also I think a lot of people don't realize when the Lord is moving in your timeline, a lot of times it's quick. More often than not, it's quick, okay? Corey and I knew we were going to get married when we first started with our courtship, right? We knew it from jump. We knew we wanted to do premarital counseling from jump. That was like a no-brainer for us, right? So because we knew all these things, we knew that our engagement wasn't going to be long, and we knew that the time from when we first started our courtship between when we got married, it wasn't going to be a long time frame. Obviously, just with my personal storyline of like moving down to Philly and all the things, there were like factors that contributed to just me wanting to get used to, and Corey respecting that I wanted to get used to like all the sudden changes that happened within my life. So of course that like played a part into our timeline as well. But by the time we were almost done with premarital counseling, and our pastor was like, okay, you guys can start thinking about the engagement and planning your wedding and all that stuff. Everything was on go from that point. And this is why I want to do the wedding series directly after this, because when it comes to certain things like that, you don't know where to start, right? So I started looking because we were thinking about the engagement. Then we were like, okay, well, when are we going to get married? Because once you have that approval, it's easy to be like, oh, we in there. It's official. Wrong, right? Galatians 5:7. Let's turn to it. What does it say? It says, you ran well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? What's stopping you from? Why you stop? Why you didn't finish strong? It's basically what he's asking. Like, what's going on here, right? So the goal is to finish strong. When you guys finish premarital counseling, then get engaged, you have not met the finish line, okay? You did not reach the finish line yet. That's so important for you to keep in the back of your mind, because it's easy to be like, oh, we're about to be married anyway. No, but you're not married yet. That is not your husband yet. That is not your wife yet, right? So it's so easy to just keep that in mind, to be sure that you're still looking at your fiance as your brother in Christ, because that is still what he is. That's not your spouse yet, right? So we want to keep Romans 14:13 in mind. We don't want to cause our brother or our sister to fall, right? I keep saying sister as if I don't know. If you're a man watching this, okay, cool. Nice to see you, brother. But yeah, you don't want to jump the gun in that way. I know for us personally, we were almost finished with premarital counseling. We started talking about when we were going to get married, right? We didn't openly discuss when the engagement will be, because obviously, duh, I wanted it to be a surprise. But based on when our timeline was going to be for when we got married, obviously I knew that our engagement would be sooner rather than later, right? So we finished premarital counseling in February. We had started talking about getting married for September. Also, this will be discussed in the wedding series. But y'all, I had a short timeline to find a dress, okay? I was looking for dresses and I didn't have a ring yet. That's how quick that timeline. I think you're supposed to give yourself like 6 to 8 months, or even if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 6 months to a year to have your dress alterations and all that stuff. Like, I was pushing it, but God, right? But God, because when the Lord's in it. But I was looking for dresses. I had to start looking for dresses immediately because of that. And I was out there without a ring yet. And women were asking me like, oh, well, tell me about your engagement story. And I'm like, oh, actually, we're not engaged yet. And they looking at me crazy like, why are you not engaged yet? How are you looking for a dress? Girl, because the Lord put his stamp on it, okay? But no, seriously. So it's like, was that a little bit awkward? Yes, but it also presented an opportunity for me to share Jesus and what my husband, wasn't my husband then, but what my fiance, wasn't my fiance yet, what Corey and I were doing at that point. And it was just, like I said, it was a segue for me to talk about Jesus. But the world standards are so much different, right? And that's why I'm saying all of this. It's like, you can be concerned about what the world thinks and what the world says you should do. Oh, you're not engaged yet, but you're looking for a ring? Yes, because the main thing for us was premarital counseling. Now we can get engaged. And if it don't work out, to God be the glory, okay? If you do premarital counseling and things start coming up and you start realizing, nah, I don't want to do this anymore, you are not committed. You are not engaged. You haven't made that public announcement. You can still part ways in peace, okay? I don't think people realize that. This is also another reason why premarital counseling is so important, because it brings out things that you normally wouldn't speak to that person about. You wouldn't, the type of things that comes out in premarital counseling wouldn't come up normally in a conversation that you two are having, because everything is, oh, rose petals and lollipops and ice cream. It's like, oh, everything. You're in the honeymoon phase, so nothing's going to bother you, right? So premarital counseling, y'all, please make sure if you do nothing else, that you do that first before jumping the broom. I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard, and I'm like, well, did y'all do premarital counseling yet? No. Well, this could have been avoided, sister. I don't want that to be y'all, okay? Which is why I'm sharing all this. So I hope this video was so edifying. I hope you all have a different perspective on premarital counseling, or even if it wasn't even on your radar, I hope it is now, and I hope that you guys will have blessed marriages. If you're watching this and you're in the process of your courtship or whatever, God bless you. I hope everything works out. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please stay tuned for the next series. I'm so excited about it. I hope you guys have been enjoying all of the videos thus far and enjoyed this relationship series. Please be sure to share it, okay? Share it and let me know what you guys think about premarital counseling. If you've done it, if you've heard about it, this is the first time you're hearing about it, let me know in the comments, all right? I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!